The Justin Robert Young podcast is brought to you, as always, by everybody who supports, the old Patreon, huh? What do you say you go ahead and check out the old Patreon over there at patreon.com/JURY. Okay, so much really rad stuff. Number one, if you're into politics, of course, you can try out our politics show. That's free, politics. But also, if you are a patron of any level, you get 5 days a week all of my political headlines. I've been writing them every single day, Monday through Friday. You get those at any level, all right? Then at $3, you get 2 extra versions of the politics show, politics. And also at any level, you get the Friday Hype Train, my 3-hour call-in show that I do every single Friday. So what do you say you go ahead and check it on out? After all, I just rang up about a $3,000 tab watching that Apple keynote 5 seconds ago, so I'm going to need all the scratch you can get. Hit me up, dog. On over there at patreon.com/JURY. But enough of talking about how we do the show. What do you say we just do the damn thing?
Ugly ain't the half, look at you. Well, you got blue teeth and you only got 2 teeth, but I kinda like to see you smile. And it appears that over the years you've turned into a big old steaming pile. And she said, yeah, I know I ain't no supermodel. I said, you ain't a hand model, baby.
No, you're not.
But that's fine. By most people's standards, but you're all right by mine.
Oh, please, sir, can you spare a few Patreon dollars so a young fancy lad like myself can find himself some animotes? Animotes for the dandy, please. Please come to my Patreon. Give me a little bit of money so I might unlock my phone with my face by way of a dot bukkake. Please, ladies and kind sir or madam, might I interest you in a fair trade of hot takes for Patreon dollars, so I might take my way to the Apple Store and come back with a way to say things to my friends as a pile of shit. If we can do custom animotes, and I can do a Captain Morgan animote pack, that's fucking... Well, that's going to be, I'm going to have to really make sure that, again, we are doing an animote pack of the real Captain Henry James Morgan and not the licensed trademark by Diageo Corporation that they used to sell rum, but rather my own interpretation of Captain Henry James Morgan, who historically sounded like... I'm an animote, you're an animal, and I'll kick you in the face. I'm a bad guy. All right. Welcome. This is the Justin Robert Young Show. A couple things that you're going to need to know if you are just listening to this on podcast. Number one, we have just finished watching the Apple keynote, which means there might be a few Apple keynote references snuck all up in here. So that's just so you know. That's what happened before. Give you a little context. Number two, I didn't get any sleep last night. That's not true. I got a little bit of sleep. I went to sleep at about like 10 o'clock at night. Maybe really by the time I was asleep, closer to 11. Then I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I may have gotten combined about like 45 minutes between then and now. But I'm not going to lie to you, folks. I'm feeling a little loopy. We're getting a little loopy here now. This one might be a weird one, just so you know. We might get a little odd. We might get a little weird on this show. It might get a little out there. So let's go ahead and start things off with something that'll probably make that more of a reality, and that is this story that was sent in by Brian. Brian sent this one in. It's a new trend piece. We have a shitty trend piece alert. Shitty trend piece alert. This one comes from ABC News. Does it even have a byline on it? Olivia Smith wrote this. Olivia Smith writes, have you ever taken a yoga class? This kind of sounds like Stossel, huh? Maybe we should read this as Stossel. You ever taken a yoga class? How about a class where goats are strolling around, interacting with the yogis? That's what happens at Willamette Valley, Oregon, where Lainey Moore started a goat yoga class on August of 2016. Moore said that goat therapy idea first came to her while going through a rough period in her life. Quote, it's impossible to be sad and depressed when there's baby goats jumping around. Which animote Stossel. Yes, we're just going to do all these animotes. All right, so here's the deal. I don't know whether or not to savage this as a bad trend piece. Because on one hand, it isn't a trend piece because it is only pointing out one place. In fact, I feel like I should be crediting Olivia Smith and her trend piece, or this piece, because it isn't pretending that goat yoga is like the coolest thing that's happening everywhere on the planet. Right? It's like, no. There's some place in Oregon where hipsters go, hippie hipsters, that go do this very specific brand of yoga. Right? And there's goats, and they're all over the place, and they lay on you. And people are taking selfies. What? Look at this. Look at this. Somebody's taking a selfie of the goat. Like, okay, fine. That's a little ridiculous. But let's see. What do they say? The 45-year-old already had goats as pets on her farm. The idea originally started as a goat happy hour where people would get to spend time with the animals. But at one of those events, yoga instructor Heather Davis asked Morse if she was interested in mixing in yoga. I said the goats would be all over the humans, and Davis said, cool. And that's when goat yoga began. Morse takes on an average of 8 goats for the 30-minute class. They range in age from a few weeks old to 2 years old. Goats don't need to bond to a human. A stranger can walk into a barn, and the goat will come on up to you and want to nuzzle you. Moore said that her business has expanded so much that she quit her marketing job and had to move the yoga from her farm to an inn with a vineyard on the area. She's also in the process of trademarking goat yoga. So this is great. This is great for her because not only is she like, yo, I'm making money by the fact that I just owned a bunch of goats, but also, by the way, this is a stated out there in the world a notice that nobody else should be able to do this and say goat yoga because I'm going to come after your ass. Logan WTF in the chat room says, stay tuned to the captain's newest trend, boat yoga. I have a boat. You sons of bitches can come here and do yoga. I'm interested in seeing the downward dog. I like my favorite pose is the captain's lament. That's where the captain spreads his butt cheeks and cries. Mostly because the boat breeze irritates my ring. Mahoy! Everybody into child's pose. which means I'll put you into slavery. It was a different time. I'm an old captain. We go back to the article. Moore said that she suffers from Spurgin syndrome, an immune system disorder that the goats help her day in and day out. They have a sense of calm about them, but they're really funny too. They're the perfect therapy animal. What the fuck is Spurgin syndrome? Let's find out. You guys want to go on this this little journey with me to find out what Spurgin syndrome is? Let's do it. Here we go. This is what we like to call Googling as content. Spurgin syndrome symptoms include dry mouth and dry eyes. People may also experience joints, pain areas in your joints or muscles, abnormality in taste or loss of taste or pins and needles, dental cavities, dryness or ulcers, hoarseness or impaired voice. It's also common with dry cough, dry eyes, dry skin, fatigue, joint stiffness. What the fuck do you need a goat for any of that? Where's like, I've got a dry mouth and dry eyes. Bring me my goat. Strike It Rich says, I got sore joints and muscles from hurricane cleanup. Hey, by the way, big shout out to all my homies in Florida. I saw the quote today from, I believe, the mayor of Miami to say that that Florida didn't dodge a bullet when it came to Hurricane Irma. It dodged a cannonball. And considering the fact that 65% of the state is still out of power, last I checked, could not be truer. Could not be truer. Huge dodge by Florida on Hurricane Irma. That thing, the storm surge wasn't as bad as it was supposed to be. It wasn't the speed that it was supposed to, nor the intensity. So thank God that Hurricane Irma was not what it could have been. Very excited for everybody that it was only as bad as it was. Keys got fucked up. But listen, I was telling everybody in the Keys to get the hell out a week and a half ago. That was never going to end well for the Keys. And I'm seeing a bunch of people right here in this chat right now that are watching, that some have power, some don't. Some are watching on their mobile plan. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. That makes me so happy. Hopefully I can help you all pass a little bit of the time here on the JuRY Show. All right. Let's get back to the news. Big news this morning and last night. Ted Cruz liked some porn. Like, now that in and of itself might be a little dog bites man. I'm sure Ted Cruz at some point has liked some porn in his life. He's seen some porno and been like, well, now that is great pornography. I'd like to say that pornography is something that I really appreciate. God bless the great pornography that I just watched. There was some boobies and some butts, and I love that pornography. I'm Ted Cruz. But he liked it. That was the news today. I read the news today. Oh, boy. Ted Cruz liked it on Twitter. We could prove that he liked it. See, back in the past, back in the dark ages, in the old days, I'm sure all these politicians like porno. I bet you, like, somebody showed George Washington, like, a dirty flip book. And you just, like, looked at it and just grinned solemnly. We were like, yeah, dude. Like, did you see George? George was into that, flip book that showed double penetration. Loved it. Brought it back to his tent. Kept flipping. He flipped through it so much that the pages wouldn't move. Connect those dots yourself. But now Ted Cruz, he's a brave new frontier in the world of horny politicians, because he liked it in a way that we were able to measure mathematically. Because prior to last night, Ted Cruz's Twitter account was at a 0 when it came to porno movies liked. And then last night, boy, we went to 1. That was a 1. There was one porno movie that objectively was just liked on his channel or on his Twitter account. Now, I'll talk about this tomorrow in terms of the political ramifications of it. And I wrote about it. If you're a patron of the this here program, I wrote a little a little advice on how I would handle it if I were Ted Cruz. You can go ahead and get that right now if you're a patron. But I want to just ask this question to all the audience right now. Who likes porno on Twitter? Because I feel like what we're looking at right now is a lot of people that are really into Twitter. If you're watching this right now live, then you're watching on Twitch. You probably follow me at Justin R. Young. So I think we got a fairly, well ahead of the curve group watching us right now. So I'm sure the vast majority of everybody probably has looked at internet pornography in the past or looks at it currently. I just don't know how much Twitter is a delivery method for that. So Hot Beverages says, a friend of mine constantly. I got a pretty good idea what his thing is. Oh, by the way, yeah. In case y'all knew or didn't know, when you like shit on Twitter, like that shows up in your friend's feed. I guess my question was, directed in the idea that I just don't know how many people do this in general. I don't know how many people look for porn on Twitter as a rule, right? So I'm looking for the demo. What is that demo? Not says that some do. I can understand following like porn stars. If you're following porn stars on Twitter, then it's like, okay, I enjoyed jacking off to you. Maybe I'd also enjoy what you do day in and day out. Maybe I would enjoy being kept up to date on your pursuits. You can follow a porn star for the same reason you follow me. I'm a content creator. They're content creators. I would like to be kept abreast. Stop it, you naughty, naughty boy. When your new content becomes available. Yeah, if you're into cam girls. I guess I follow a cam girl on Twitter. The one that I interviewed on the show. I follow Doxy on Twitter. Sometimes she posts her titties on Twitter. That happens. There are interesting pornography Twitter accounts. Yeah, the Buck says retired porn star Mia Khalifa is certainly worth a follow because she posts all the thirsty ass athletes who like slide into her DMs. But the account that Ted Cruz or his staffer liked was sexual posts. So sexual with an extra L, posts, plural. And that was just a clip from like Brazzers or whatever. One of them their porno companies. So like I just don't know who's going there. Or who likes that account so much that they're like, you want to know what? I want to show them that I want more of this kind of shit. So I want to heart it. I want to let them know, hey, thumbs up. Keep it coming with more of this stuff. I don't know. I'm sure it's out there. I'm sure that maybe it's a younger thing. Maybe the idea of going to a website for pornography is kind of an old man's game. Maybe everybody, all the kids these days want one-stop shopping. I would like to know when there's a hurricane off the coast of Puerto Rico on CNN. And I'd like to see some stepdaughter get drilled by the team quarterback while the undersexed mom frigs herself behind a post. I mean, that would make sense. Like, I'm not saying that the lines here need to be shameful. I'm just curious as to what they are. So if you have any theories on this, go ahead and hit me up. JustinRobertYoung@gmail.com. Yes, Sidon says Tumblr probably has a better culture for that, right? They curate niche feeds. The Buck says that got oddly specific. I know, because I watched that post. Yeah, look at that. I'm a journalist. Big shout out. SI Newhouse School of Public Communications. And my degree that I have from it. Of course I watched that whole clip. I want to know. I want to know what went on in there. You never know. It's a 2-minute and 20-second clip. Could be at 1 minute and 45 seconds. If you listen to it on earbuds, you hear Ted Cruz say, "I'm the Zodiac Killer. You never thought this would be my final admission, and yet here we are." I got a question for y'all. Here's another question for the audience. Comes from this Daily Mail article. Magic mushrooms may one day treat depression. Study is investigating active substance in the illegal drug that is due to launch early next year. The idea is that, psilocybin, is that it? But that's going to be used in clinical studies to see if they can treat depression. So here's my question, and I want active participation here in the chat. Name your most persistent physical or mental ailment. Just think of that in your head right now. Close your eyes, unless you're driving. Close your eyes. Think of your own medical or physical ailment. Okay? Now, what if I were to say to you, right? So Striker Rich has bad knees. Okay? Perfect example. Now, what if I were to tell you that you could actively deal with it, right, by using the street drug that you are most afraid to use? Now, qualify that by saying if you were just somebody was randomly going to come up to you and be like, "Hey, do ecstasy. Hey, do coke. Hey, do heroin." Right? Hey, do speed. Hey, do crack. If I were to tell you, bath salts for knee pain, that you could effectively treat the physical or mental ailment that bedevils you the most if you were to use the street drug that you are most afraid of, crack for rectal itch. No, I mean effective. I mean that you were able to dose this out by a doctor. You just have to use that drug. It would be a guided medical experience. Would you do it? Would you do it? This is what I'm getting at. Hot Beverages says, I don't want to do cocaine. That's fine. But if you had to face that drug fear to get therapy on the thing that bedevils you the most, would you do it? Gantoris 006 says, well, I would try it. The fact that I'm afraid of it would mean I would look for more than the normal amount of data and evidence to support its effectiveness. So let's say that you get that. You get enough that you are willingly able to do it. Or actually here, though, let's put probably the more interesting idea is what would need to happen for you to say, okay, I'm totally into this. Because what I think is, what we're going to find is that line between where we have built up in our heads what street drugs are and what it would take for us to break that. Because I got news for you, folks. There are plenty of prescribed drugs that are, if they were just random street drugs, or that they have street drugs that are called different names, that would curl your goddamn hair. What's different? They had to clear FDA trials, and they're administered to you by a professional. ICU says, what if chemical dependence is your ailment? So you'd be using heroin for heroin abuse. Isn't that called methadone? Like, that happens now. Ben Forgot says, I'm dealing with some chronic illness, so yeah, I'm game for anything that would help. And by the way, I'm with you. Because I was up since 3 o'clock in the morning because of this stupid fucking back of mine. If you told me that all I had to do was do heroin and it would be better, whoo, ooh wee, Rick. Let me know the dosage. I would be all over it. Now, I would want it to be prescribed by a doctor. I had people, I had people offer me pills that I would have liked to have been prescribed by my doctor. Didn't take them. Because I do believe that, I don't want to get anything crossed. I don't want to unnecessarily harm whatever treatment I'm on. But I am desperately afraid of heroin. I don't like needles all that much. I don't like administering needles to myself in any way. That idea seems very unpleasant. Heroin addiction was probably like the most bedeviling drug of my generation, as all my favorite celebrities died of heroin overdoses. So I am afraid of heroin the most. But if it were prescribed to me, that I had to take it intravenously, and I had to apply it myself, but I was given a very, very specific regimen, I would face that fear. But I'm curious to see what you guys say, because I don't think that this is a simple question. I would love to hear, and in fact, all of these I will do anonymously if you guys want to send them in next week. JustinRobertYoung@gmail.com. I want to know what your ailment is, and what your drug is, and whether or not you'd be willing to pull the trigger. Jeremy Lundy says heroin was what killed all of our heroes. No, my heroes. It's in mine. I like Kurt Cobain. Kurt Cobain was a very important artist in my life. The thing that killed all my musical heroes growing up was either gang violence or fucking heroin. All right. I read this here profile today. Yeah, Lane Staley. Kurt Cobain died of lead poisoning. Yeah, because he had a heroin addiction. All right. I read this. I got to read this article to you guys because it was fucking amazing. How many of y'all are familiar with Dov Charney? Dov Charney. Hands up if you know who Dov Charney is. Dov Charney is the founder of American Apparel. He was kind of a superstar in the fashion world. And he wound up totally flaming out because he was forced out by his board because there were too many sexual harassment claims against him. And so now, Dov Charney is starting up a new company called Los Angeles Apparel. He's a character. And in this Guardian article about him, he does not disappoint at all. He is all over the map. He's a lunatic. He's a crazy man. Hadley Freeman is the writer. Let's read from the lead here. Dov Charney, the man at least as famous for founding American Apparel as he is for being serial accused of sexual harassment, is showing me around his new factory in South Central Los Angeles. As usual, he's talking as fast as he's walking. See this shirt? That was influenced by a 1990 shirt that one of our designers found. On all those in our photo studio. That guy in there, he's like a Gatsby bon vivant, he says in a loud, raspy voice, pointing to a tall young man who, like all the young people who work in here, has a somewhat bewildering job title and looks like a model. Another one follows us around with a mobile on a selfie stick. This, I'm told, is for content. So, blah, 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 blah. He's starting up a new company. He's pissed off that he got kicked out of his old company. It is kind of a very, whatever. It's an all right profile. You can actually tell that the writer kind of doesn't mind. In fact, might have a little bit of a soft spot for Charney. And the fact that he has always committed to manufacturing in America and paying all of his workers a good wage and have benefits. And you can tell that she likes this guy because she waits until halfway through the article to dump all the fucking real good quotes. She paints him as this guy, a complicated figure, like many founders who now all of a sudden have found themselves looking to rebuild, come back from a devastating situation. They make sure that they lead with the fact that he sleeps on a mattress inside of his new factory. They don't immediately lead, as I think she would have if she hated him, if he came off as the kind of creep that he would if you just read these quotes out of order. She saves those quotes for the end. So it starts off with this. Does he have a girlfriend who shares his office mattress with him? Well, apparently the mattress is in the middle of the floor. I don't know if it's on a box spring or anything. I'm going to use this voice for Dov Charney. Nah, I wouldn't say that, but I have bonds with people that are very intense and important. Does he have trouble dating now, despite his reputation? He makes a wolfish grin. No, that's not a problem. The women like an effete merchant. Also, I look like a warrior now because I'm coming back. All right. When asked about the claims that he used to wear underwear around the office, he says, "This is great. This like the you need to read this. This will be in the notes on the on the article, so you can go ahead and get that on the Patreon. Or, by the way, if you're on Twitter, go ahead and follow at JuRy Megafeed, JuRy Megafeed. That's going to be all the updates on new feeds and new episodes coming out. They'll all be on one Twitter account now. So go ahead and get that. He has this running joke about the underwear. So when asked if he's going to still run around in his underwear, he says, "That was untrue. Absolutely untrue. I mean, is it true that I was in my underwear in front of employees when I was doing underwear fittings? That happens at fashion companies." He grabs a hold of a pair of tiny black panties that happens to be on the side of the sofa. Fucking panties on the sofa. So take Jasmine. Jasmine the intern? Yeah, she wore this underwear in front of me. It's not incendiary. It's not inflammatory. It's totally normal. But it is sexy, presumably, writes the author. It is. I mean, have fun. Try on the underwear. I'm not unfit, you know. So he's just soliciting the author to put on the underwear in front of him. Charney insists he's not too busy at the moment to think that he's too busy at the moment to think about this kind of sexy stuff. Although it would have been a little bit more believable if 2 hours before our interview, he hadn't posted on his Instagram a video of a young female employee in the office bending over in a thong leotard. I will now, for science, try to find this post here on his Instagram, which, by the way, the site for Los Angeles Apparel is literally just his Instagram. So I don't quite know. Oh, maybe he deleted this. The bending over in a thong. Well, there we go. Maybe. Is it this one? These are the bodysuits. Oh, it's just a series of pictures. Certainly sexy. Anyway, you can go ahead and follow him. Dov Charney _ Los Angeles. Let's get back to this. So, blah, 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 blah. Talking to the American Apparel Board. All right, this is where it gets good. Many people see an inherent contradiction between Charney's indefatigable championing of workers' rights and his equally energetic pursuits of his female employees. But for Charney, the through line is obvious. He is essentially a libertarian who thinks that there should be no boundaries, national, professional, or sexual. He says, "Look, let's say this first. I abhor all forms of sexual harassment, period. But it's unrealistic for the government to interfere with people's private lives, and that's it. I ask if he's still sleeping with his employees. That's private," he retorts. Charney asks about his talks about his firing with obsessive fury, raging about how his business was stolen from him. But does he regret the behavior that led to his sacking? Not at all. Sleeping with people you work with is unavoidable. It's amazing. Amazing. This guy has no worldview at all for the idea that his pattern of behavior cost him his company. Unavoidable. You can't avoid it. If you have ever successfully not fucked somebody you've worked with, you are a statistical outlier. So then the author presses. But employees are not people you work with. Those are colleagues. An employee is somebody who works for you. He answers, "Yeah, but that's okay. I'll say this. I never had a romantic relationship with a factory worker, ever. It wouldn't be possible. But a creative equal? Yeah. And if anything, I'll tell you, I don't know who was the predator, if you know what I'm saying. He then goes on. This guy, what a fucking operator. Take yourself, he continues. You're well-spoken, well-educated. You decide to work here, and we develop a romantic interest in each other. We could say, okay, we're attracted to each other, but it's better to just work together. Okay, we could try that, and that may work, but if the attraction is so intense, eventually we're going to give up. We've tried to avoid it, but we've decided that we're going to get involved. But could he really not have changed his behavior to stay in control of his own company? Never. Out of the question. It wouldn't have been good for society. It wouldn't advance the right of workers. I love this motherfucker. He is such a scumbag. He is so sure of his own scumbagginess that he just has his dick fucking sing Les Mis. His dick is not just here to plow as many 19-year-olds as possible. He is here to fight for your right as a worker. Who did more for workers' rights? Cesar Chavez or Dov Charney's dick? Close one, IMO. Now, here's what's great. So then, just in case he's not proven himself enough that he doesn't get optics, right? Because, by the way, plenty of CEOs love to fuck interns. That's not a question, okay? CEOs used to fuck secretaries. Now they fuck interns. But they don't say it out loud to a reporter, right? Not so much for Charney. He says to this, like with Trump, okay? Great way to start a sentence in 2017 when you're trying to rehabilitate your image. Yeah, Dov Charney's dick for Secretary of Labor. Like with Trump, okay? It disgusted me when they made a big deal about the Billy Bush episode. The man's a terror because he's anti-worker, anti-immigrant, a nationalist, hostile to the environmental ideology, and knows nothing about how to bring manufacturing back. He's got no ideas. That's what matters. Liberals lost on ideology. That stuff he said to Billy Bush about grabbing women by the pussy. Who cares? If you recorded all the things I said about women in the past 10 days, it'd be no different. Oh, my God. I love that also Donald Trump saying that he fucks around on his wife and is aggressive with women that he perceives to be fair game or that are making themselves fair game. Because he's a star and they're letting him do it. Might be in certain worldviews more ethical than fucking your employees. And then, of course, he hits on the reporter more. You got to read this. This is great. He is his dick is just a real hero. His dick's the real hero. Everybody go check that out. All right, everybody, let's go ahead and read your emails. JustinRobertYoung@gmail.com. JustinRobertYoung@gmail.com. Derek writes, hey, Justin, I need your advice on living a mediocre life. I'm an extremely bland demographic, 32 years old, white, male, married with 2 kids, 1 boy and 1 girl. Pretty much your stereotypical family. I've been working at the same company for 14 years in different roles, and I've been married for 11 years. Lots of stability, and I hate it. I feel like I'm leading the most mediocre and boring life, and I don't know how I can break out of it. I don't have any real passions or hobbies. I'm the normal video game playing guy, but again, I'm very average, and I don't feel like I have anything that makes me stand out in any way. How do I find my passion? I have a difficult time getting out of my house and trying new things. I work full-time during the day, and my wife works during the evening. The kids are still at an age where they're in bed early. Any sort of advice would be greatly appreciated. You stated it perfect, Derek. You don't have your passions find you. You find your passions. Literally try anything. Figure out what free time you have and where you have it, be it inside your house or outside your house, and fucking throw a dart. Find a meetup group and just see what fits. Literally, you can do no wrong. Because if you don't like it, at least you know what you don't like. It will help you find what you like easier. But here's the one thing that will never, ever, 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 ever work for you. Fetishizing your averageness, which is what you're doing. Because you're not average. I'm sure there's a million different things that make you unique. But you're short-circuiting your creativity by saying, I'm just an average man. Yeah. Strike It Rich says, question 1, do you have an intern? Maybe that's the way you do it. Cameron writes in, I found the lonely emails you've been reading interesting, not just because I can find something relatable as a lonely person myself, but because of the lonely trends I hear on your show and in other places come back to relationship or sex problems that I just don't fully relate to. Personally, I feel lonely because I just sincerely don't feel like I belong anywhere. I like to think of myself as an open-minded person, and while I do like to do research topics on my own and form my own opinions, I make a habit of never telling someone they're not allowed to have their own opinions. However, I'm a Christian, and historically I vote a Republican, or at least conservatively. When this information comes to light, I get forced out of social groups. I didn't vote for Trump, but a couple people on Twitter have sent me hate mail for being part of the problem that caused this. When everyone's emotions were running their highest, I lost a lot of Facebook friends over November because most of the people I socialized with lean liberal, and some were getting very passionately hateful in the directionless sense. I was kicked out of my Warcraft guild. No one will sit with me at the lunchroom at work. And I think Scott Johnson blocked me. It's the little things that add up. I've never been able to fit into church groups or more my right-wing social circles because those groups tend to attend the stereotypical closed-minded types that won't suffer my hippie shit. If I ever defended something that isn't being talked about that fairly, this caused me to retreat to the internet safe space where I need to pretend that I'm not a white male Republican. If any of those details got out, then I'm called a bigot and harassed, and it leaves me feeling more alone. I don't remember having problems with these same opinions maybe a few years ago, but the divisive extreme left-right, you have to pick a side mentality, has been getting worse. I'm not looking for a companion to hold my hand the rest of my life. I'm just looking for someone to talk about politics in these volatile subjects. I literally want to find somewhere or somebody who is willing to not call me trash if they hear something that they disagree with. I apologize for the ramble, but I think that tapped into me a little bit more than I thought it was going to. Well, number one, listen to the politics show, because that's literally what we're trying to do. Number two, I think that this is a problem. Although, I don't know if you totally got blocked by Scott for just nothing. He tends to only block people if you get up his asshole about shit. By the way, if you listen to the OPP episode from DragonCon, then you'll be excited to hear a follow-up from the Mustang Sally driver. He wanted to point out that there was literally no saving those pants. He had to drive back home. He couldn't have gone to the funeral. When I told him that people had emailed me since that episode and said that they had almost pulled a Mustang Sally, He wrote back and said, yeah, I started a movement, a bowel movement. He says, I realized the irony was that later, when Chris was near the end, that was his friend whose funeral he was going to, he had a really hard time pooping and went several weeks without doing it. When the doctors finally got him to do it, he was very proud and posted a selfie on Facebook with a t-shirt that said, I pooped today. Nate and Jamie wrote about Joel Osteen. Nate writes, I appreciate your views and criticism as an outsider, so I'm here to provide criticism from the inside. I am an evangelical. First, I do not have a positive opinion of megachurches nor Joel Osteen. They are far too concerned with money and appearances and not concerned with Christian doctrine or behavior. So, in an attempt to be fair, I decided to think about what my church's response should have been in that situation. My church is not nearly as large, 750 to 1,000 members, and we're in Central Florida. I would work hard to make sure that my church opened up and sheltered people. My pastor would share that view and be willing to help our community, not just members, but anybody who needed help. And by the way, he wound up doing it because that dude they opened up his church for Irma. So good on you for literally practicing what you preach, Nate. And Jamie said, I just listened to the last JuRY episode. I thought I'd give my 2 cents worth on the matter of Joel Osteen. I've grown up as a Christian, specifically Southern Baptist. I am active in my church, and I do a lot of stuff with the church. Needless to say, I saw everybody on Twitter lighting up Osteen, and I kind of had to stop and laugh. Osteen and his church are part of what we call the prosperity gospel. Basically, it's the belief that it's God's will for his followers to be rich and have an easy life. While this is in theory good, it makes for poor theology. According to the Bible, there will be times of suffering and pain to follow if you follow the Lord. It isn't supposed to be an easy road. It's the hard road. Most Christians kind of scoff at the idea of the prosperity gospel, and it's Christian light. It's like Christianity light, he says. Same great taste, but none of the stuff that'll drag you down. And in non-Christian emails, Scale writes in, when you get together with groups of friends or partners, do you ever think, hey, are they into butt stuff? And if you come to the conclusion that, yeah, maybe they do you ever think what conversation that would have been like? Or like who had to talk who into doing what? Which one would be the kinky one? Were they both into it but didn't realize it for years? Or did they meet up in some clandestine way and specifically because of their sexual interests? I mean, with all the apps and everything, who knows? Do they dress up? Do they watch porn and try to replicate it? How many rooms in the house do you think that you've been invited over to have they effed in? Have they effed in this room? Oh my God, am I sitting on a couch that they fucked on? Does the thought of friends sitting on the fuck couch get them hot? Did they wash their hands before they put those chips in the bowl? Was it served before they got here? How do you know? I think about this kind of stuff. Scale, you should move to Northern California because shit, I've had far more conversations with people who would have that kind of topic brought up before you even had a chance to ask. Of course, everybody, if you want to email us, you can do so. JustinRobertYoung@gmail.com. Again, JustinRobertYoung@gmail.com. Put JuRY in the subject line. You can follow me. Twitter and Instagram @JustinRYoung. That's my personal account. You can get updates on every single show that I do, from politics to pro wrestling and everything in between, at JuRY Mega Feed on Twitter. And of course, you can join the conversation at diamondclub.reddit.com. Folks, that about wraps it up for this edition of the program. This is your old pal, Justin Robert Young, wishing you a good week, and specifically, Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.